Comfortable, ready to go?
Absolutely.
Amazing. Well, welcome back to the Coaches to the Moon podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very, very blessed this morning to be joined by Andrew Calderella. He's an inspirational speaker, trainer, and coach who's basically specializing in helping everyone to just be better at life and make a more significant positive impact on the world. We're going to talk about his whole life, his book, his troubles, his successes today, all the way from Santa Clarita, California. Andrew, thanks for being here, mate.
Thank you so much for having me, Alex. And thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah. We do get a few on the live stream, which is fun. And we always appreciate that. And we'll see some positive comments soon, I'm sure. So, mate, first question, because I used to be a chef. I used to be in hospitality for about 12 years. And that was my baseline. My favorite thing to do is barbecue. Where is the food better? Detroit, California, or Japan?
Oh, gosh. It's funny because to be healthy, I have to cook for myself. So it was really just finding the healthiest ingredients in the world. And I would say California has got it nailed by far because you got the most organic diversity of foods that I've ever found anywhere. So that's my answer. Japan was awesome, though. I mean, I had a lot of awesome food there. I lived up in the mountains. It's a local community, and they grew a lot of the vegetables right there. So it was really good.
A little healthier than the Coney Island chili dogs, eh?
Oh, yeah. No, I stopped eating junk food when I was like 13 years old. Once I realized what junk food was and what good food was, I just had to make that choice.
100%, man. I'm on that train myself at the moment. I've always had being from hospitality and being in kind of like the pleasure business. Never had an issue with having, a little bit of decadence or, fine wines and whiskeys and that sort of thing. However, I'm not a massive fan of all the artificial that myself and my family are working on at the moment. So that's great, man. I'm really glad to hear it. Why the switch at age 13?
No, just I've always been into trying to figure out how I can be the best person I can be. It's kind of really started when I was a kid. And like I said, it was like I learned, you see your family eating all sorts of chips and junk food and whatever. And I didn't really understand the difference. I think when I was 13, I heard about it and I started learning about good food versus junk food. So it's just, I've always been health conscious. I've been an athlete my whole life and martial arts and all sorts of sports and things. So it's just kind of all went in line with my goals. And it really does make a difference because the healthier you are when you were young and you treat your body really well and you exercise and do all the things you need to do, the stronger you're going to be later in life. I can't tell you how many times I coach people, and especially when they're really old, it's so much harder to get in shape. And even then, you're never going to be in greatest shape as if you really push yourself when you were young to build those bones and the muscles and everything else.
Yeah, laying that foundation. I feel very blessed to, I've had my mum's always been very into staying healthy and homemade food, that kind of thing. And I know that baseline for me, not everyone gets that. So I feel super blessed. And I think it's important to not preach to people that they need to be healthier, but just show them the way and give them the options, right? So
absolutely.
That's cool, man. Let's talk about your early life, because you just touched on, being a kid and martial arts, and you got quite a history there. And I know you probably told the stories a lot, but the things I'm interested in is actually your transition from trauma to where you are now. So you're legally blind in one eye. Which one is that?
It'd be my right eye.
Your right eye. Okay. How is it
now? I was
now?
legally blind. So when I was born with dyslexia, learning disabilities, and a lazy eye. So the lazy eye meant the bad eye was turned in a little bit and my brain would just turn it off. So they put a patch over my good eye to make me look out at this bad eye. And, it was 2200 vision is literally like looking through cotton. I mean, you can barely see anything. I couldn't read. I couldn't do math. Couldn't catch a ball to save my life. I was bullied relentlessly. So as far as the tragedy you're mentioning, the hardships, it was really tough. I had teachers ridiculing me in class, telling me I was too stupid to learn anything. I should just leave. And, part of a learning disabled group, take you out of class and put you in there. You can imagine how much mocking that involved, and almost being drowned and, stripped down, thrown in trash cans, have all your stuff destroyed all the time. It just created a very hard childhood. And when you go through that trauma, people can say whatever they want, but as a kid, you have no way to deal with it, because it's like, I remember being a kid and waking up and really being happy to be alive and wanting to go out and do all this stuff. And I remember that slowly dying. And I remember in fourth grade, just waking up and kind of being happy and then realizing what I'm facing and then just not wanting to go anymore. You just want to disappear. You just don't want to be in this life anymore. And create a lot of negative thinking, depression, suicidal thinking, and had a lot of issues, but luckily I had a loving mother and caring people around me. And I was able to really learn that, and this is what I think made the difference. And a lot of people don't have this. And this is what the shame is, that one, that somebody kept instilling in me that it's not me that has the problem, it's them. And they kept showing me examples of people that have learning disabilities like I had that became totally successful. But not only that, were some of the greatest thinkers in the world, like Edison and Einstein and all the rest of these people. So, I think we don't handle bullies and the whole idea of thinking differently in our society. We call it a learning disability when it's really a gift, because I was given other gifts. I was tested out to be a genius in abstract thinking and all these other things, but it doesn't mean I could do math or spell, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I think we're just way too hard on people, especially kids. And we don't teach the bullies and the other kids to respect each other. Treating others as you would want to be treated and as equals is not just a thing to put up on a wall. It's the thing to instill in your child. You know what I mean? Every time they do something to another kid they shouldn't be doing, you have to be going, hey, Johnny, would you want him doing that to you? How would you feel right now? You know what I mean? And sometimes even doing it to them so they can feel it and understand what it's like. So anyways, hopefully that makes a little sense.
Yeah, 100%, man. And honestly, like I was lucky. I was in high school. I wasn't bullied because I didn't care. I was a bit of a punk rocker, and a lot of people didn't like me because of that, but that fueled my fire, and I loved it. So I did more. I tried to piss them off as much as possible. But being a dad now, the thoughts of both my daughters getting bullied and them being the bully both scare the hell out of me. So I love what you just said there, like helping them, treat others as equal no matter what is
and the golden rule, the golden rule, how you treat others as you want to be treated. This idea of reciprocity, of equality, like I said, is central to us being successful not only as people but as a species, right? As a race, as a world. You could look at most of the problems in the world could be solved by 3 beliefs. And if we live these beliefs, it would solve most problems in the world. And one is respect life, is basically caring for our world properly so it can thrive and not destroy us. It provides all our food and water and everything else. All people are equal, and the golden rule, treating people as you would want to be treated. And seriously, if you look at most of the problems in the world, either with police or the environment or whatever, it always stems down to almost those 3 things. So, like I said, when I'm sharing the way and all of this, my whole life's journey and why I'm on your show and talking about all this stuff is because I kept finding things throughout my life that were like these big epiphanies. Like I said, people say I can put things together sometimes. And I was really into philosophy and theology and studying all the wisest among us in the world throughout all of human history. And I kept finding these golden threads and I wove them together, and I had these huge epiphanies, and I'd share them. And I'd be like, hey, what about this idea of true success and success, or the meaning of life, or these 4 principles that we're all after for the solution we're seeking to be our best, and all these things. I kept sharing it with people, and they're like, wow, you got to share this. You really have to write a book. You have to get out there and talk about it. So after 30 years, that's what I'm doing right now. So the first book's out, and I'm going on shows to try to share the wisdom. And again, it's not about me. This is about like the human race's solutions on how we can be the best people we can be.
100%, man.
And fix our world, obviously.
Yeah, no, I love the concept. I love that it's a broader concept, but you've got methods to more tangible steps, and I really want to get into them in just a second. But I want to touch back on what you said about your childhood real quickly, because you mentioned some gnarly stuff there, like getting thrown and drowned in pools and in trash cans and stuff. I feel like these tough childhoods, being in the coaching space, the tough childhoods often seem to bring a lot of people into the coaching space where they want to help other people. And similar stories of people who have had hard times and now they're thriving and helping others who are going through the same stuff. How do you think your own, traumatic upbringing has been an influence on why you started coaching and wanting to help others and have a more positive impact?
Sure. I would say for every one of us, there's 10 or 20 people that don't make it. So while these tough upbringings do make people like me, right, and others like you mentioned, I would be happy to have been pushed in another way, because when you're traumatized as a really little kid, these scar you like forever, even as an adult, because of these ingrained patterns of thinking over many, many years. And the treatment, even though I overcame it and I do it, it doesn't mean I don't have that, like that shell of feeling happen again, or fall into that pattern. I think that there's a better way. I think my whole thing is like, I don't know, I think there's if we're all going to become better people and we're going to fix our world, we all have to get on the same page regarding some of these fundamental issues of life, right? Like there are best practices on how to sleep, on how to eat, on how to have conversations, on how to deal with your spouse, on how to do a lot of things, think, and everything else, right? The problem is that we all have some of them, but we don't have all of them, and it creates a lot of problems. We're only as strong as our weakest link. So what I found is throughout my coaching is that it always comes down to that weakest link, right? When you go start coaching with people, they have A, B, and D, and E, fine, but C is messed up, and they have no clue that they're not even, that messed up there. Like you have to spend some time really helping them understand what's happening and why, and how that's affecting everything else. And it's like I said, it's these missing pieces. It's these things we can't see and we don't know that always come back and bite us. And I've talked to so many people. It's like you're 50 years old and you're like, hey, I just taught this guy this. And you go, wow, I wish I knew that when I was a kid. I hear that all the time. And I'm like, why don't we all know these things when we are kids? The whole idea is to have the best knowledge, right? And the best ways of bringing up our kids, and then do that so they learn these best practices as their initial habits, right? So they become the best people they can be without having to relearn things later in life. And what I found is you needed so many different little golden threads to make up all of this knowledge. And you can't take 100,000 hours of Tony Robbins and Deep Rock and everybody else to try to find all these pieces. There's nobody's going to do it. So I just put it all in one book. Actually, it's 3 books, but I'll get to that later. But all 7 steps are in this book. The deeper knowledge is in with the other 2 books. So, for me, it's always like, I've tried to explain this to people so many times. And you have to start with the big picture, the big ideas, like what is the meaning of life? Why are we here? What is the true goal of life? Like these big things before you can even start discussing a lot of the more final points, because they set the direction and the tone and the goal and everything else of your whole entire life. They bring clarity on what you're doing from moment to moment. So when you get these details, you're like, oh, of course, now I see how this all fits into this game plan. And that's where my program is different than everybody else's that I've ever seen, is because they talk holistic a lot of times, but they're not. And they only give you small pieces, and then they leave it up to you to figure out the rest. I can't tell you how many books I've found that said, be healthy. Do you know how many books there are that are so contrary to the whole ideas in them about health? I mean, it's ridiculous. It took so long to research all of this. Anyway, hopefully that makes sense.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, it does. And I couldn't agree more on the health thing, by the way. I was in the health coaching space for ages, and I would just tell people what had worked for me. And I would be like, okay, for me personally, basically, I don't like to meal plan or calorie count because I feel like it's not sustainable for me. I don't like to cut out food groups because I feel like it's not sustainable for me. I like to intermittent fast so I can have a bigger dinner. And then you get the people going, yeah, but I heard that that's the worst thing you can do. This is the only way. Contradiction galore.
There's books that say eat nothing but meat. And then there's books that say eat nothing but vegetables. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like I said, if you go into this space, you could find an equal and opposite expert on every point. And that's what drove me crazy. So what I had to do is I went down and studied our bodies, like how the actual biology works, how the cells work, what they need all the time, what they don't need, how the body clears itself out. How's it all supposed to work? And then you start adding on the knowledge of what's in the foods and the micronutrients and all the, beneficial vitamins and what people are missing, what they're not, the amino acids, whole chains, all this stuff, you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot, but once you put it all together, it's like I said, I had some epiphanies. It becomes pretty easy once you know how to eat properly to just size your meals based on if you're gaining or losing weight. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, for me, like you said, calorie counting, everything else, it really just has to do with portion size. So if I'm working out a lot, obviously I need bigger portions. I'm using more. And if I'm not, and once you start eating really healthy, this weight comes on and off like nothing. I mean, it's like sometimes you've been a sports guy, like you'll try to gain like 10 pounds of extra fat if you're going to go to the triathlon. So you have a lot to burn, instantly right there, ready to go. So anyway.
I love your energy, man. You're fun to talk to. I like it. Well, let's talk about the book, man. Let's talk about the 7 revolutionary steps to living a meaningful life and making a real difference in the world. That is literally the intro of this podcast goes, this is Coaches to the Moon, the only podcast you need to skyrocket your coaching business and create true impact in the world. And that's what we're here for. So it sounds like we're on a similar path, man. So
absolutely,
making a real difference in the world, living a meaningful life. I know it's a big question, but why did you choose to write this book, and who do you write it for?
Sure, I wrote it for you. I wrote it for everybody. I like you said, I've had a really trippy life. A lot of hardcore things, from dog bites, almost losing my leg, almost being blind, and learning disabilities, car accidents, fights, and all sorts of crazy stuff. It all showed me a lot of answers and solutions. And like I said, when you put them all together, it weaves into something much greater. I've had a lot of spiritual experiences in my life. I'm very close to God, not the religion, but the true living God. And I believe that this all showed me certain truths. And I say this, it's like, I don't want to sound like this has anything to do with me, but it's like this is my mission. I mean, this was given to me as a kid and I took it and I've been running with it. It took me so long. I thought I was going to die and lose it so many times. I can't even tell you. Just writing this book, seriously, I've lost relationships. I was hit by a car. You see, I have a lot of energy, right? Can you imagine me sitting in a desk for 8 hours a day? You know what I mean? It was like, that is so contrary. So I did a lot of sales, a lot of talking, a lot of, development and teams and everything else throughout my career. And when I was hit by this car, it literally, broke my back. I couldn't stand up. My hip was jammed. I couldn't walk or do anything. So it forced me to kind of become this, computer screen guy and really take all the notes that I had and start to redo all the knowledge and find, more of the solutions. And like I said, that was in 2000. So from there to 2015, it took me 15 years to get to the point where I had something I could show to people. And actually, let me just tell you the story. In 2015, I was sitting there on a Saturday. No, it was Good Friday. And I was sorting out the beginning and ending of my book. And I kept finding these references to this is key to true success. And I put all these keys together and I discovered the 7 steps. And what I was told when I was young is that it's fine to be, super smart and have all these great ideas. We got enough people making money. What we need is people solving problems. And if you're going to solve a problem, you need to make the complex simple, right? Especially big problems in the world. And like my dad told me this when I was young. So when I saw these 7 steps and the words and how they all work together and how it fit with the, true goal of life, the meaning of life and all these other solutions I had found, it was seriously like a secret code got unlocked. And I outlined this book for the next 3 days. I hardly slept. In the next 5 years, I gave up all my clients. I had marketing business then. I had strategic consulting clients and everything. I just dropped it all. I also have another business, drug testing business. That one I kept going. That one really just runs itself. I don't really have to do anything. But so then I just concentrated on the book and came out in 2020, of course, right when the apocalypse hit. And now as I start sharing all these solutions, everybody seems to agree. And that's the only reason I'm doing this. I don't want people to know this isn't about me. This is about the solutions I found. And when I share these solutions, everybody agrees with me. I haven't had anybody not agree. I've had very critical, like Harvard PhD, professors like mock me at one point And then I say, you know what? You don't know what you're talking about because you haven't read the book. And they come back 2 months later and they're like, you know what? You were right. I was wrong and I apologize. Then we get into discussing why they thought it wasn't and then why it was. And that has to do with this idea of simplicity, explaining the complexity. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes you can wash over something and think, oh, that's just too simple. But if you think about it for a minute, it can dawn on you and go, wow, that really is deep. So anyway, that's kind of why I'm doing this. I know I probably said that a couple of times now.
No, I love it, man. And it's honestly something that I have to talk to coaches about a lot in terms of them marketing their business. Is like, we've got to stop using the coaching language, the jargon and the complex things, because not everyone has the knowledge that we have as coaches. And, yourself, you would have, after all your research and everything into microbiomes and cells and spirituality, you would have all this deep knowledge. And if you tried to go into it and explain it to someone using all these big words and jargon and details, they wouldn't be able to grasp the concept. So
Exactly.
Be able to explain big things in a simple way that a 12-year-old can understand, I think it's the key to getting a message across. So I'm really glad you said that. Let's talk about the message, man.
All right.
7 steps. I'm not going to ask you to go through all 7 steps because people should just go and buy the book on your website. But it is the 7 revolutionary steps to creating a meaningful life. So what for you is the most important one for someone starting out in business, and why?
Okay, so we switch from the way to business. I think for business, if I'm going to talk to you about business, because I've done a lot of business coaching and I've worked with a lot of startups, the first thing I go into when I deal with the people, especially in a new business, is to find out if they really want to be a business owner or if they just have some cool idea or product idea, because it really makes a big difference. And I want to explain this because I talk to startup people all the time. There's kids that come in and like, I have this great idea and I got these 3 guys and my best friends and we're going to do this company. I'm like, okay, so who's going to do the marketing? Who's going to do the, stuff with the insurance and deal with the business setup and all? They're like, we didn't even think about any of that. And I'm like, this is the difference between a business owner and a cool idea person. You know what I mean? That's why you always have these guys that have the cool ideas. They always partner with somebody else who's like the hardcore business guy that's like, yeah, I'm going to sit in the meeting with the insurance agents and make sure we have the handbook for all the employees done. And, those guys. So that's what I want to figure out first is like, who is this business guy and who are the idea guys, and make sure that they're on the same page on what they're supposed to be doing, because the creative idea guy that's making products doesn't do well doing the accounting and stuff like that, and the vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So you got to make sure your roles are right and you have enough people to really have a business, you know what I mean? And not just an idea. And people say, oh, everybody should have their own business. I don't believe that. I've talked to enough people and mindsets to know some people just like to have their job and go home and hang out with their kids and not worry about anything. If you're a business owner, this is 24/7. You're never going to stop thinking about it. There's always going to be problems, no matter what time it is that you could work on or not work on. So, like I said, it's a mindset and the people that are in this core group that really matter when you're starting out a business.
Awesome, man.
Let me give one other key, because I did mention friends.
Sure.
Don't ever go in business with your friends until you sort out all of the details on percentages, roles, duties, everything else. The first thing that will destroy your company is if you give everybody an equal share, and then Johnny's over here doing nothing and he's got a quarter of your company and you're trying to get A-round funding, and there's no way anybody's going to invest in you because this guy's a jerk and he's never going to give up any of his stock into growing the business. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot of these things that you got to be aware of when you start your business. And one other point too, because I've seen this, don't ever put your money all in the bank where you all have access to it equally at any time. Make sure that if anything's over like minimal, a few $100s, that you need multiple signatures, because I've seen that happen too, where you start growing and money's coming in and somebody's like, I'm getting a divorce, I'm taking it all, I'm leaving, have a nice day. So anyway.
My goodness, my word.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 100%. I've been in the business with friends predicament, and not that I have regrets in life, but I'm not particularly proud of the way I acted in that situation, but life goes on. So everything you've just said there, I want to make sure we touch on the way in the 7 steps. Is anything coming out as you as correlating from your book to tips for startup business owners?
Yeah. Well, the first thing too that I always say to people is that it's not just business. This is your life. So the whole idea of the way is that you need to take care of yourself, your relationships, and everything else as you're doing your business. This isn't something that's separate. You know what I mean? And again, The Way is a book on how to be the best person you can be and fix in our society. So it talks a lot about power and how to handle your mind and develop your, your spirituality, all these different pieces of what it is to be human. So if you're going to be a really good business person, for me, it's like you need to handle all these other parts of your life. I don't know how many people you've ever seen that are like, it's probably like 90% of the men that I've ever coached that are over 40 are divorced, if not divorced twice or three times. They always have issues with their kids. They're overweight. Most of them, or half of them at least, smoke or smoke cigars or something like that. And they're miserable. Like you get with them and you're talking with them and whatever. And they're like, God, I stayed in the office every night. My kids grew up. I never saw them. I had pains in my stomach. I can't go anywhere. I'm always, all these things. And you're like, it always makes me feel so sad because you look at this guy and you're like, wow, man, you're running a multi-million-dollar business. You got hundreds of people working for you. You know what I mean? You're growing and doing all this stuff, yet you're miserable. So my thing is like, how do we stop that? Because those miserable bosses also then create misery within their companies, right? Their employees then suffer. They make choices they probably shouldn't make. They're grinding on people and all this kind of stuff. So when I coach, I always try to get them in business to realize that it's your whole life that matters and it's going to affect your business. The healthier and happier and more whole you are as a human being, the better you're going to do in your business and the happier you're going to be. Because I always ask them too, I was like, why did you go into business? Why did you do? Oh, I wanted to be happy. I want to be successful. I want to do this. Like, are you successful? I think so. I made a lot of money. Are you happy? Not really. You know what I mean? Or it's like they have so many problems that it's like, I'm happy with this, but I'm not happy with this and this and this and this. And like I said, most of it always comes down to the most important things. When you're old and you're talking to these guys that are 7 years old and they're miserable, it's like three things. It's their relationships, number one, meaning their wife and their kids. That's the biggest complaint. Their health. They wish they didn't neglect that. And they didn't neglect having some fun. like some of these guys, they literally work like 7 days a week, year after year. And then they're like 40. They're like, I didn't go on vacation. I didn't enjoy anything. If I did, it was like I brought my work with me. So what I'm saying is this is your life, man. Enjoy it as you build your business. And that really will make a big difference. Does that make sense?
100%. And I'm fully on the same page with that because as a family man and a healthy guy, my dream is not to just eat phone numbers all day and just sell and just watch the Stripe account grow. That stuff's great. But I've got other things. I've got friends who their favorite thing to do is build their business. All power to them. What are your thoughts on people sort of like Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, hustle guys, the hustle 24/7 mentality that we see on social media these days?
Well, and again, I don't know them personally. Some people sell an idea, a way of being that they can make money from. There is something called burnout. I've experienced it. I don't know. I'm very gung-ho. I'm not saying I don't work hard as your business owner. I mean, I put in the weeks and weekends and nights and everything else. It's just you have to balance it. You have to get up and work out every hour. You have to do these different things. So for me, when I teach these people how to work properly, it's just really how to balance your life. And when I look at coaches like that, there's no balance in a lot of times what they're saying. I mean, if you look at Elon Musk, right? He's not a very happy guy from everything I hear about his employees and everybody, right? He's not in very good shape. He seems really angry. To me, that's not success. You know what I mean? It's like, I see that so many times and I talk to these people and if you're not happy, then what are you doing? You know what I mean? You clearly missed something. Yeah, I don't care. You're the richest man in the world, but you're also not happy. And happiness, when I'm talking about being fit, it's not necessarily like you need to be some super buff guy, which I actually teach that is kind of contrary. The standard of Arnold Schwarzenegger being the standard of what everybody should be is ridiculous because if you study people like that later in life, like they have the biggest problems all over their bodies because they wore them out. They've just, shoulder surgeries and knee surgeries and everything else. You want to have longevity, means your body is useful all the way through your life. There's 90, something year old people's climbing mountains. That's who you want to be. So So the idea of, like I said, of being happy, that's like the number one desire of everybody. That's what they want. So, if you're in business, you got to look at your life as being holistic, and the business is a piece of it that's going to help build your overall happiness. And if it's not doing that, you really have to not necessarily stop doing it. You just need to fix your life, like the way you do your day, so you can integrate all these different things. And honestly, I just want to say this. When I share this with people, like I've take a 40-year-old guy, doctor, owns a business, multiple offices, growing, people investing in them, whatever it may be. And they have these issues like with their wife and their kids. And I give them these techniques, just simple things to start doing just throughout the day. And they're like, within 2 weeks, they're like, wow, this made such a difference. And I'm like, did it take your whole day? No. Was it 5-10 minutes every hour to do something healthy and, exercise a little bit and get on the, send a text or whatever it may be to your wife? And he was like, yeah, no, it wasn't that big a deal. So, like I said, it doesn't have to be this grind fest, people. You can structure your life by integrating these best practices in all these different areas and perfect what I call your daily way. That's step 5 of the way, is really perfecting your day, like literally mapping it out from the moment you wake up to where you go to sleep and how it kind of all works. And then in that daily way, you put in the virtues and the best practices that you're trying to integrate in your life that you don't have now. You make reminders and pop-ups and things that be like, oh yeah, you got to do that right now. Stand up, do a little exercise. You know what I mean? So anyway.
I love it. And I'm going to play. So step 5 of the way is about optimizing and mapping out your day to optimize
step 5, I call it B. Okay, I'll just give you a brief overview of the whole way in about a minute or two.
Yeah, that's right.
So we start off with, and then I'll maybe even be able to give you the meaning of life right after that. So I actually have a master class, just so everybody knows. I really want to just give you this knowledge. I wish I could just give it to everybody. So I'm doing a free master class. It's called the Life Essentials Master Class. And we start off covering the rules to life, the meaning of life. The next lesson is the true goal of life, how to achieve the true goal of life, and the 4 keys that everybody's been searching for, that we've been, as a human race need if we're going to implement this solution. And then I walk through an overview of the 7 steps. And then in the last class, I call it graduation day, is where I kind of give you the big picture of the next steps and how you can continue down this true path. So, it's like I said, I start with the big stuff and then we go into details. And if you'd like, I've learned how to kind of explain the meaning of life. The class is longer and I'm going to skip a lot. Obviously, a lot of good details in there, but I could give you guys the idea of the meaning of life if you'd like.
Well, it'd be a world first for our podcast to hear the meaning of life. So yeah, please tell us, Andrew.
All right. The meaning of life is 42. No, I'm just joking. That's from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Just
yeah,
so
that's a nerd joke for us.
It's a nerd joke.
I love it.
Okay, but the real one is to understand the meaning of life. We really first need to understand the rules to life. So you ever seen the Child's Game of Life? It's a board game. You ever seen that? Okay, so everybody's out there. It comes in a box. It's got a board. You open it up. It's got rules. You have these little pieces. You move along this board. Sometimes random things happen to you. Sometimes you make choices, and really it determines your fate, right? How you handle all this that happens to you. The real world is like this too. Instead of the rules of life, we call the human conditions. Now, the human conditions are things like big things, like the universals, like gravity, entropy, space time, all the big things, day and night, how gravity works, all that stuff. And then we have human-centric conditions that really just have to do with us. The fact that we are born as a little baby, we need all this fuel, we grow, it takes us so long to develop, food, water, all that stuff, right? So you add these things together. So you take the universals and the human-centric conditions and you analyze them. And what you find is, again, I'm cutting this down, but they really focus us in 3 ways. It's self-creation, self-control, and societal development, meaning it focuses us on ourselves and developing ourselves from literally a little baby to an adult. And then it has to do with the society around us, because you're not just an island unto yourself floating in space. You literally are living in some type of community. Hopefully you're not being raised by wolves, but even if you were, that would be your little society. So this idea of developing yourself from a little baby to an adult and doing it within a society, hopefully helping you become the best person you can be, is where we actually find the meaning of life. Because if you literally have to create yourself from a baby, you got to control this if you're really going to be somebody that you want to be. So that's what the meaning of life then becomes, to make your life meaningful, to create a meaningful life, or to find meaning in your life, something like that. You know what I mean? This idea of it's up to you to make your life into something that is meaningful, right? And I know that sounds a little like, yeah, but that's not really, I don't know. It's like, it always left me like, yeah, great. But that still doesn't really give me like the details on what I need. So really, when you analyze that, you get down to the question where it comes, okay, so if I'm to make my life meaningful, what do I need to fill my life with? And how do I do that, to make it? And I come down to goals. It really comes down to, when you analyze how we're going to do it, what are the goals that you need to achieve if you're really going to become the best person you're going to be, right? To live this meaningful life, what do I need to fill it with? And that's where the next step comes in. And I explain the true goal of life. It's like, I always start with the difference between success and true success. So anyway, hopefully, does that make sense? You agree with the whole meaning of life?
I've got to grasp it. Yeah. I think it's a question that I've never pondered on too much, but I know a lot of people do. And so for you to phrase it like that, I feel like that's a great way of expressing it, so that people can, I suppose, take their own meaning from that, and that we've all got our own different goals, our own different versions of success and true success, and to make life, it feels very complete and also a little open to interpretation for me. So I think it's pretty...
I know it's short right now. I do go into it's like a half-hour masterclass, so I go into more detail, choice and free will, and all these kind of different pieces that make up that whole idea of the meaning of life. But literally, these ideas, when you're talking philosophy, sometimes the questions aren't really what we're after. It's been framed in society for so long and translated from other languages sometimes that it's not really the question. So in the masterclass, I drill down on what the real words mean. Like when we ask the meaning of life, like we're really asking like what is it I'm supposed to be doing? You know what I mean? How do I live? How do I find something that makes me happy, and all these other big things, right? You're just trying to figure out like, why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing type of things. So when you try to explain things to people, you have to do it in a linear way, and you have to do it within some type of container that everybody can understand. And what I found is, if you use some of these big ideas that people talk about, like the meaning of life, and you actually logically walk through it and show them why it has to be for you to make your life meaningful, because you literally are born and have to make yourself into somebody. I mean, it literally is that logical. It kind of, I don't know, I've had people tell me like it creates clarity. Like when you sit with these ideas, these big ideas, after a few weeks, you'll start to feel like you have a direction, whereas before you didn't. And again, you need to put a bunch of them together before you get that whole big picture. But that's the idea of where something becomes like the pieces aren't, what is it? The sum of the parts aren't as great as the, what is that? I always mix this one up, but some of the parts, or it's greater than the sum of its parts.
That's what I mean? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So that idea where it's like all these little ideas, right? All these golden threads taken by themselves are great and they'll help you. But if you don't put them together and then put it in context and then put it in a way that you can actually walk down a path every single human being on this planet can, to me, it becomes meaningless. You know what I mean? You're just writing another book. It's like, I can't tell you, most of the self-help books, most of the success books you're ever going to read only talk about one thing, and that's virtues. Okay, virtues are the traits that humanity desires in ourselves and in others. These are the things we admire. These are the things we want to be, like being reasonable and rational and intelligent and having great communication skills. Whatever the trait is that you can imagine that you want or admire in another person, that's a virtue. So as we're walking through life, when you're looking at all the books out there, this is what drove me crazy, is like literally, it took me, 10 years I was reading all these books. And I realized I had that huge epiphany that all they're talking about is virtue. Like they'll tell you an endless story, like for 20, 30 pages. And the whole point of that story was dedication. You got to be dedicated to your work. That's it. It's like you can read a whole coach book on, the NBA, the best coaches, and it'll be like communication, listening, dedication, discipline. I mean, it's like you could literally like even sometimes look at the chapter titles and find out like what virtue they're doing. The problem that I find is a lot of them, they talk about the virtue, but they do not talk how to do it. Like, how do I actually instill like being healthy, like Think and Grow Rich, be healthy. Okay, go the extra mile. What? Okay, can you explain that? Like, how do I do that and become, all these people or this kind of a person? And that's where it kind of drove me crazy. And that's why I wrote The Ways, because it was too much. There was no way any human being, other than maybe like some crazy person like me who broke their back and is laying in bed, is going to spend their 30 years reading and trying to figure out these answers. That's why we're so confused. That's why the world is so messed up. I seriously, man, I've shared these solutions and ideas with people in all walks of life, you name it, all over the world, and they all agree with it. So I'm like, and I keep thinking like everybody's humoring me, and I call them to the carpet. I'm like, are you just saying that because I'm some stupid dyslexic, whatever, and you're just like, yeah, let's patronize them. It's okay. They're like, no, seriously, I don't know how to say it. It's other than it's the truth. And again, it's not my truth. It's like I found something in a cave and I'm bringing it out and I'm sharing it with you, and people are like, yes, that is gold. And I'm like, okay, let's all take a piece of the gold. Okay. And we can all be rich. That's what this is. Knowledge can change the world. And I said, a pen is mightier than the sword. The ideas that I shared with you earlier, respecting life, treating others as equals and as you would want to be treated. Like I said, if you really let that sink in and look at all the problems in the world, there's no way they could exist if we all just agreed with those things, because most of the problems wouldn't exist. There's no way the police would be doing what they're doing to some people and not others, or governments, or the way we treat our environment or business operates. You know what I'm saying? It's just, there's no way. So I don't know, I just went off there for a little while. You get me going on the show.
No, that's what you're here for, man. That is what you're here for. And it's all super interesting stuff. And, I was going to ask you at the end of this, because we've only got a couple minutes left. I was going to ask you if you could just quickly elevator pitch your book for us, why people should go and get it. But you've done it. There's nonstop throughout the show. That I'm so intrigued in your ideas, man, and this masterclass and the way that you're applying simple steps that when used all together can literally change the fabric of society as we know it. I'm super excited. But one thing your team did send over, which I was really interested in, by the way, if anyone ever wants the most helpful podcast guest on the planet, Andrew Calderella and his team are who you want to go to, because they're going to pretty much give you so much help, and they're so generous. Your team sent us over a bunch of resources, and they actually sent us a link to some free gifts that the audience can get. Everything from like the Daily Way template, meditation, mental focus guide, communication checklist, even some health and fitness stuff. We know about your book. Can you let people know why they should go and grab all these gifts from you and how it can help them in their life and business?
Sure. Okay. The website is 7wayme. That's the number 7, WAY.me. It's named that because it's the way and 7 steps. The 7th Foundation is the organization behind everything. Now, the reason you want to do all of this is because it's like I said, so many people are jaded, and you've seen so much. I get that, but you've never seen this. So don't be so jaded that you're a good person. You're going to walk by something that can change your life. This is new. Okay. I'm just getting started. So I've done the way and the one. The one is the one tribe, the one movement, and the one party. Just quickly, it's like the way is the knowledge, right? The class is the videos that I'm doing. You can gain all of that within the one tribe. And then the one movement is about joining all the good people in the world together in the one big movement to be able to make big changes in the world. We're too diluted, too siloed. There's way too many environmental groups and equality groups out there in the world. If we really want to make a difference, we need to just join together in one and have billions of people fighting this. I know you only said a couple minutes. I could explain this a little better, but and the other one is the one party, which is about a new political party about making government work right for everybody instead of these fringe parties that are trying to divide and like nobody on the other side can have a good idea. Let's just implement the right solutions. I don't care what party it's from. I don't even care right, left, or anything. It's what matters is making this stuff work right and stop fighting about all these stupid fringe issues. That makes sense.
Absolutely, it does, man. That's something I could talk about for hours and hours. I think I love I love
I
all
think
these
you're gonna have to have me
concepts.
back, dude. If this is the end of the show, I barely got started. No.
I know, man. I know. Well, this is the issue with people like yourself. So many great stories. It's a good problem to have, right? That you could. I'm sure that coming to your masterclass would be insanely captivating, and we're going to put links to everything you've got. The reason why we cut these episodes short is because exactly like that. We want people to go and absorb everything you said, so we can have you back. We can clip this up, and 100%. Let's book in round 2 as soon as we get off the call today. That'll be absolutely fantastic, man. Because
Awesome.
but let me go and grab your book first, because I want to actually read it and then grill you on it, because I love a good grilling every now and then, and I'm sure you do as well. So
Absolutely.
Andrew Calderella, mate, thank you so much. And honestly, I could listen to you talk for a very long time, and you've got a lot of love and a lot of knowledge to give. So really, really honored to have you on the show today, brother.
Thank you. I'm honored too. And thank you everybody for watching, and reach out. Let's connect on all the social media, have some fun together, and really change the world. Now's the time,
100%.
right? I mean, we're all awake and connected. If not now, when is all I got to say.
Yeah. Well, not everyone's awake and connected, but, because of people like yourself, hopefully we're on the way there, and we're getting there one day at a time. The way is the book, and we're going to, pop all those links in all our channels. And I'm super duper excited to actually go and grab this thing and read it myself, because I'm not a good reader. I'm not a good reader of books. I have a pile here. But when I have a guest on the podcast, I make it priority to read these books. So I cannot wait. And I can't wait for the personalized signature on the front cover there. So
All right, you got
it. Once again, mate, thank you so much, Andrew Calderella, for coming on the show today.
Thank you, everybody.
Anyone listening, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much if you're on the video live or on the recording. Great having you here. I'll be back next week with another episode of Coaches to the Moon, some more fantastic guests. Until then, thank you for listening.